After the Chicago Bulls fired Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley, there is now a new duo being rumored to take over the position for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to talk about it. And then it's been reported that the Chicago Bulls are wanting to work to retain Billy Donovan. We got to talk about that too. In today's episode, we're going to talk about the Chicago Bulls matchup later today versus the Washington Wizards. Yeah, I know we're going to talk about it, break it all down, but you got to hear the music first. Cognac, gang, What's going on, Chicago Bulls fans, and welcome back into another episode of Shot Bulls Podcast with the Cognac Boys. I'm Cognac Boy Bobby, and I'm holding it down for today's daily episode. So if you're tuned in, like talking Bulls basketball and feeling a little bit better after we got the news yesterday, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, we know that yesterday we all was in celebration mode, celebrating the dismissal or the quote-unquote all caps firing of the incompetent Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley. And now there's going to be a number of rumors that are going to be hitting the rumor mill. And there's already been different outlets bringing up candidates for the Chicago Bulls. But two candidates I really want to talk about is Masai Ujiri and Luol Deng, who have been rumored to be taking over the basketball operations position and the general manager position, or at least to be names that could potentially go out there and get this job. This is coming via Joe Cowley, and we're going to get into that shortly, but just not too long ago, we had Jamal Collier of ESPN reporting that the Chicago Bulls are expected to engage a search firm taking a different approach than when they hired Arturas Karnisovas. So that's an interesting piece to add into this. Again, a lot of this stuff is just going to be rumors. We're just hoping as Chicago Bulls fans that these guys put the right people in place so we can have some damn winning around here, because we tired of looking like trash. But hey, according to Joe Cowley, he said in one of his articles that if Billy Donovan leaves and the front office must be replaced, first, a name to pay attention to is former Raptors executive Masai Ujiri, whom former Bulls forward Luol Deng has suggested several times this season, according to a source. Hiring Ujiri could potentially mean Luol Deng becomes the general manager and you allow Masai Ujiri to run the basketball operations. Now, I want to mention that Masai Ujiri was just fired from his position with the Toronto Raptors last year in June of 2025, but he is an interesting person to consider for this job. This is a guy who has a solid track record of making draft picks, who we're going to get through here shortly, and a guy who was not afraid to say, you know what? We know you ain't going to stick around, but we need a chip in this country. And he went out there and had the cojones to trade DeMar DeRozan for Kawhi Leonard. Man, that was a cold-blooded move, but it paid off in the end. That's some aggressiveness we know AK would never have. We know that. But we know some notable draft picks that Masai Ujiri has made over his time in Toronto have been some really solid players. Just to name a few, we got Colin Murray-Boyles, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, Jakob Poeltl, Pascal Siakam, Norman Powell, Evan Fournier, Kenneth Faried. Some really solid names around there. So you got some all-stars in there. You got some really good players up in there in that selection. So it's not a bad thing to consider Masai Ujiri for the job. However, I'm not just going to hand over the job. I want these guys to utilize this search firm to go out there and find the best possible candidate. I'm not against Masai Ujiri, but what are some of the other candidates that could come to the table? Is there somebody in OKC that you can look at? Can you poach somebody? I heard somebody mention Brad Stevens. I don't think that's happening, but hey, take a shot. Swing for the fences. Get somebody in here who has a healthy track record. And Masai Ujiri will be along those guys with a healthy track record. However, you want to do your due diligence because you want the best possible candidate. Now, when you talk about Luol Deng potentially coming to the Chicago Bulls, that's another interesting name. Now, there's not a lot of experience within the NBA per se with him having front office experience, but Luol Deng has had a significant executive experience outside of the NBA as the president of the South Sudan Basketball Federation since 2019, helping that team become a national team and qualify for the 2024 Paris Olympics and the FIBA World Cup. So he has that experience with bringing players together, getting the best possible players, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be a position to where he's going to lean heavily on Masai Ujiri, and Masai Ujiri is going to lean heavily on him. And shout out to Luol Deng. Once was a Chicago Bull, definitely won some games in Chicago for the Chicago Bulls. And shout out to him one more time for telling the Reinsdorfs to get off their backside and get these bozos out of Chicago. So you get 2 shout outs for that. Y'all let me know how y'all feeling about Masai Ujiri and Luol Deng potentially teaming up to come take over the front office for the Chicago Bulls, because that is something that is very, very interesting to me. There were some concerns about Masai Ujiri and how he handled the cap space towards the end of his tenure. But again, no GM or VP of the guy that's running the basketball operations is going to be perfect. But can you put up good teams to remain competitive? I think for the most part, they were competitive, and he was able to discover some talent throughout his tenure. Not necessarily the perfect candidate. I don't think there's going to be a perfect candidate that's going to be over or willing to come and take the job from the Chicago Bulls, but definitely an intriguing duo that could potentially come to Chicago. Let me know how y'all feeling about that down below. Now, I want to get into talking about the Chicago Bulls working to keep Billy Donovan. See, that's 2 things. That's 2 things. There's 2 discussions that you can have with this. So I'm going to just give you one of them and then flip it on the other side and give you the other. One side of the whole entire discussion that you can have or potentially bring up to the table is looking at it and saying Billy Donovan wasn't in charge of constructing his roster. His boss was a complete bozo. We all know that. On the other side, we could say, hey, did you really have influence? And what about some of your rotational stuff? What about your X's and O's stuff? What about it? And why on God's green earth should we not just start over fresh? Both discussions are fair. Both discussions makes a lot of sense. Now, it's being reported that after the season, once the season concludes on Sunday, after that game versus the Mavs, Billy Donovan has a meeting on Monday with the front office. So maybe next Monday, we might be hearing some more stuff coming out of Chicago in regards to if Billy Donovan is going to be going or staying. We know that he does not have the option of going to UNC anymore because that job was given to Mike Malone. We know that he probably was going to miss out on a job anyway now because literally the transfer portal opened up today. We know, at least coming from KC Johnson, these are his words, not mine. You let me know how you feel about him. Let's take a look. He said, Billy Donovan is well-connected, respected, and humble enough to stay in his lane. He'll offer opinion on personnel and enjoys doing so, but mostly likes to coach. Also, there's recent precedents for a lead executive inheriting a coach, keeping him in mind and having success. KC Johnson furthers and goes on to give the example of Tim Connolly and Chris Finch with the Minnesota Timberwolves. How do you all feel about that? Me personally, I think Billy Donovan is well respected around NBA rooms. I don't think us fans like Billy Donovan much, but I think Billy Donovan is well respected around the NBA. Just my personal opinion. Not necessarily saying I like him a whole lot, because I don't. But the way I feel and the way most of us feel, it's obviously going to be a lot different than how the people and that partake in the NBA every single day feel about it. You heard about when Pat Bev came over here for a short stint. He said he loved Billy Donovan. You hear how Montes Buzelis speaks about Billy Donovan to this day. He loves Billy Donovan. You hear how DeMar DeRozan was over here. He loves Billy Donovan. So there's a number of examples around there from some solid players that love Billy Donovan. So would that be something that influenced a guy to come and take the role and say, you know what, Billy Donovan is well respected. He's a Hall of Famer. The players love playing for him, et cetera, et cetera. I'm willing to keep him on. The biggest question is, if you do keep him on, how do you get him talent that he can coach and also develop? Because that's been the biggest problem with a lot of us in Chicago, the developmental process. Not much out of Julian Phillips, not much out of Dalen Terry. We sent Marko Simonovic back overseas. Adama Sanogo was a foregone conclusion. However, on the flip side, Ayo Dosunmu improved under Billy Donovan. Kobe White improved under Billy Donovan. Montes Buzelis is still coming along, but there's examples of some guys that just didn't pan out, and there's some guys that panned out or still trying to pan out. Some of the biggest questions is, if you do retain Billy Donovan, how do you get him the proper talent, and how do you properly gauge his performance with said talent? Because the only thing that us Chicago fans got is being mid and in the damn play-in, and then every time we hit the play-in versus the Miami Heat, he getting out coached. That's what we have front row seats of seeing. We have that. So my opinion is, let him go. That's my personal opinion. Get some guys in here from the top to the bottom that can all work in lockstep and push this thing forward. Billy Donovan is not bad, but he's pretty damn average. Like, that's just me. I had once thought Billy Donovan, I held him not really high, but I had him above average. But after time and time again of watching him getting whooped by the Miami Heat, Rick Carlisle, Joe Mazzulla, it's a difference in this. We understand there's a difference in this coach compared to some of the better ones who have been at the mountaintop. We understand that. So it's not to say that he can't stay. I just don't want to see him stay. I just don't want to see him stay. That's just my personal opinion. I'm not going to deny the fact that Billy Donovan is respected. I'm not going to deny the fact that most of his players like playing for him. Most of them do. It's just that I think when you make a change, everything needs to change. And I think Billy Donovan can have opportunities elsewhere. Go do something elsewhere. I wouldn't be mad at it, bro. We'll see what happens with that entire situation, though, because it's definitely going to be one that we're going to continue to monitor as the weeks goes on, the days goes on, because at the end of the day, I want what's best for my team. I don't give a fuck who. Do what you got to do. I want to win games. I want to see us in the playoffs. I want to see us be able to compete with some of the best. We're getting left behind. Atlanta is on the come up. Next year, Washington Wizards will be on the come up. The Charlotte Hornets, they're on the come up. The Indiana Pacers are not going to have less than 20 wins next season. We're behind. We need to get better. And that starts at the top all the way down to man 15, including the coach. So considering who already is in the mix and who's been in the mix, we're behind. Now, it could be true that a GM might see that there are some intriguing pieces that they can go ahead and work with this franchise and with this team, because you're gonna have the cap space, you're gonna have your picks available and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, it matters what they do with that stuff. It matters. So we'll see what happens, man. We will absolutely see what happens. Now, before we get up out of here, I want to talk about the Chicago Bulls taking on the Washington Wizards later today in a game to where there's no Montes, no Josh Giddey, no Nick Richards, no Jalen Smith, who didn't travel to D.C. It's a game I guess I'm going to be watching for Rob Dillahan and Leonard Miller. Colin Sexton, I ain't going to lie. I love the energy the kid bring. I love the energy that the man bring. I really do. But I'm more focused on Rob Dillahan and Leonard Miller. That's who the guys that I want to see. We're going to go out here and rock out to see what the Chicago Bulls can do. Maybe provide some type of entertainment, because we only got, after tonight, we got 3 games left. After tonight, we got 3 games left, because I ain't even going to hold y'all. I'm ready for the season to end and a new era to begin. That's what I'm ready for. I'm ready for it. I'm still going to be tuned in into watching the squad. We don't have a holiday coming, so we good. We should be available. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. The Chicago Bulls stay in a good spot right now. Still holding on to that 9th spot in the tankathon. So they still have the 20% percentage of getting in one of those top picks. And they have a good percentage. We'll see what happens. Milwaukee Bucks, I think they just messed around and won a game. So we good. We got a little cushion. You know what I'm saying? A little cushion. But hey, that is it for me today, y'all. I appreciate y'all for tuning in to another episode of Shy Bulls Podcast. Before y'all get up out of here, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell as well. Let me know your thoughts on the Masai Ujiri and Luol Deng rumor. I think it's very interesting. Let me know how you feel about the Bulls wanting to hang on to Billy Donovan. Do you like it, love it, hate it? Let me know. And then you already know, man. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one for sure. Peace out, y'all. Cognac. Gang.